Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening if you're watching this on the replay. If you are watching on the replay, let me know in the comments below where and when you're watching from, just because I'm nosy and I like to know. I can see some people are tuning in live already, so hello, thanks for tuning in. Great to see you here this morning. Do feel free to interact in the comments and let me know who you are, what you're watching for, where you're watching from as well. So sometimes I see all of the comments and sometimes I don't see so many. So do be aware that if I'm not responding to your comments, it's not because I hate you, unless your name's James Chisholm. And I will absolutely get back to you and respond to any questions after the live. Okay, let's get to it. Today, what am I talking about today? Today, I'm talking about the end of history illusion, which reminds me, I was going to prepare to share my screen and I haven't done that yet. Let's get that ready then. Okay, there it is. But I've shown you it too soon now. Right, okay. What is the end of history illusion? Let's jump straight to it. End of history illusion is one of the cognitive biases that this series is all about. So I should probably explain briefly what cognitive biases are. Hello, David Price. I do know who you are. That's my dad for anyone who doesn't know. Thanks for tuning in. It's not like you to watch my stuff and support me. Are you all right? Hope you're okay. Morning, Jessica Fletcher. Always good to see you. Yeah, so cognitive biases are basically just shortcuts that we make on a subconscious level to make it easier and quicker for us to make decisions. Now, in theory, that's a great idea. We want to be able to make decisions quickly. It's good for our survival and it's good for moving us forward. However, the problem is in the modern world that we live in, those tendencies that we have and those biases and decision-making processes that take place don't always actually help us to move forward and make good decisions. Quick decisions, yes, but not always better ones. And today's bias that I'm talking about is definitely one of them. Good morning, Kat. Thanks for tuning in. End of history illusion. That sounds rather grandiose, doesn't it? The end of history. So what's this all about and where does it come from? Well, quite simply, it's the tendency that we have to underestimate the likelihood of personal change in the future, despite acknowledging and recognizing the level of personal change in our past. Okay, hope that makes sense. David says lockdown makes him desperate to do something, anything. And hey, if that's what it takes for me to get more people watching and hearing my message, then great. So yeah, this whole idea that we can't judge how much we're going to change in the future, but why does it matter and what's that really all about? Well, this is where my pretty little drawing comes in. It's not my drawing. I stole it from someone else, which is hidden by my border, but I promise you it's there. It says at the bottom of the page there. I'll share the link in the comments at the end if anyone wants it. Just let me know. But yes, this graph shows that the yellow line shows the reported change in the last 10 years. So this is someone looking back over their last 10 years saying, I've changed this much. And yet, despite recognizing that level of change, if you ask them how much they think they're going to change in the next 10 years, their prediction is shown by that that sort of purple line at the bottom. That's my watch thinking I was talking to her. She's obviously starved of attention today. So effectively, what that's saying is that I would say a great example of this is music, taste in music. So you talk to a 30-year-old about their taste in music, and they'll tell you one thing, and they'll expect that it's going to stay the same and maintain for the next 10 years. And then you ask them in 10 years' time, it's far more likely to have shifted and changed. Or their political views. I mean, a great example of this, and this is a huge generalization, but as with most generalizations, there's some stats behind it which imply it to be so. Younger people are far more likely to be politically left-minded. And then as they grow older, there is a shift for a large percentage of people towards the right of the political spectrum. So, you know, uni students are likely to be more idealistic and support Labour, or at least a left political party that supports their views. And then as they grow, if you ask them in that moment, they would tell you they're always going to vote this way. They're always going to support that. That's always going to be their intention and their take on it. But in 10 years' time, there's a good chance a surprising percentage of them will have shifted very much towards the right on the political spectrum, and will have changed their views. And then those people that have done so will, of course, look back on people who are now going through uni and now have those ideas and assume that they're going to change as well. But they still won't be able to predict that in the future, their ideals, their views, and their preferences will still change more. So when I talk about these biases, a big thing that I talk about a lot is understanding these biases in themselves. Recognizing that they exist can be a really useful thing. Because once we understand how we're thinking and the flaws and mistakes and errors in our thinking, we can be more aware of it and ready to look out for them in the future. In this particular example, where it can come into play, an example that's used quite a lot when talking about this is that people would pay a lot more now to go and see their current favorite band and know that they're going to be guaranteed to be able to see them in 10 years' time. People will pay a lot more for that ticket than in 10 years' time if you ask someone if they want to pay to see their favorite band from 10 years ago, how much they would pay for a ticket. That's a good example of it. So you can see how being aware of it can lead to controlling for it and making slightly better decisions about the future. But also it can leave you in a place where when you stop and think about your future and you're trying to make future plans, it is completely normal and natural to assume that you're going to be exactly the same person in 10 years' time, even if you don't want to be, even if that's not something that you expect of yourself. You'll still see your future with far less personal change than you're likely to actually achieve, especially if you base that on your previous 10 years of experience. So when you're thinking into the future, the simple thing here that I think is important that you can take away from it is have goals. Absolutely have goals and intentions and make plans and do what it takes for you personally to see those so that you can move yourself towards them and drive yourself forward. But maintain some flexibility there. Make sure you review those goals, because you don't want to find yourself in 8 years' time still virulently pursuing that plan, that idea, that goal, that dream that you had 10 years ago, only to get there or get close to it and realize it's not actually what you want anymore. But you found yourself just so tunneled in achieving that goal. So be aware that you will change. We all change. And I think that's a good thing personally. See, there's a lot of resistance to change because change can be scary. We like things to be the same. And this is partly thought to inform this particular bias, is our desire for the status quo, to keep things the same where it's familiar because we know what to expect and therefore we're safer. And that's all well and good, but change is going to happen anyway, whether you like it or not. Just look at the last year and a bit. Change was very much thrust upon us. Now, the thing is, we have a choice whether we embrace that change, use it, and find ways to, because when we want to change something, when we want to grow, develop, do something new, get better at something, it involves stepping outside our comfort zone. Change is not easy for us in that sense. But the hardest part of getting from A to B isn't getting to B. It's leaving A to begin with. It's taking that first step. And if you find you're in a situation where change is thrust upon you, for example, suddenly a national lockdown, that's forcing you into a position where you are changing whether you like it or not. Wouldn't it be great to use that as a catalyst, as drive, to ensure that you're changing and growing in a way that benefits and helps you and moves you forward? Kat, this is great. My autistic brain can be quite fixed on things, but the ADHD side changes regularly. How do I find the balance in that? What a brilliant question, and probably not one that I can answer like that on a live, because it's going to be different for every person. So I think I'd need to ask you a lot more questions to understand you personally in terms of how you can find the balance in that. But the first step there is you've asked that question. How can you find the balance? See, the thing is, whether you're neurotypical, whether you have autism, ASD, whether you have ADHD, regardless of what's going on in your world and in your mind and your brain, for all of us, it is what it is, and we are what we are. We can change, we can grow, we can develop. But however you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing in any one moment is exactly that. It is an experience. And by its very nature, an experience has to be experienced by a party. Taking the time to step back and think about who it is that's doing the experience, where that experience comes from, can be really useful. So the first level of that, because that starts to get very fluffy. It kind of sounds a bit fluffy, doesn't it? So to bring that to earth and kind of make a reality from that, what I'm suggesting is taking a step back, being objective, observing your experience. So if you find that that's leading, so in the example you've given, maybe there's times when your autistic thinking is very black and white, but your ADHD is saying something very different. That creates a sort of a cognitive dissonance, a discomfort in that you feel almost as if you're being pulled two ways, I would imagine, with your thinking. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. Don't let me put words into your mind. But obviously, this isn't a conversation, so I can't have two-way communication quite so easily. But if that's the case, then what you've got there is an understandable discomfort. But if you take a step back and acknowledge that actually your autistic brain, as you word it, that's quite fixed and thinking one thing or t'other, black and white, that's not you. That's just part of your experience of being you. That's just part of what you're recognizing around you in your world at that moment. And the same for the ADHD. When you take that step back and recognize, almost as if it's parts of you, it's parts of your experience, and neither of those things are something to deny, to argue, to fight against. They're all just, they are what they are. You can still choose what your next action will be. You can still choose how to use that and how to work with that rather than fight against that. I hope that helps. I appreciate that doesn't give you an answer, but within it, there's a lot of power to just taking that step back, observing, and just being prepared to notice what you notice and make decisions based on what moves you forward and helps you personally, rather than making decisions based on discomfort in that moment because you're living within that dissonance, rather than looking at that dissonance from an objective perspective. I hope that makes sense. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, to you, Kat, but also to anyone who's watching. I'd love to know if you think I was just whittling on and waffling, or if there's some value in that for you, how you interpret it, and how that works for you. And Kat, if you want to have a further conversation, just drop me a message, get in touch. I'm more than happy to have a chat and see if I can help you find more balance for yourself in a way that's right for you, rather than a kind of generic answer on a live video. Cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. Sarah Higgs has tuned in just as I say thanks everyone for coming along. Missed it again. Just watch the last 5 minutes back. You might find that interesting, Sarah. So just before I go, one last thing. I'm going to use this as a chance to quickly plug an upcoming program I've got because I'm really excited about it. So on the 1st of March, I'm launching an online program. It's a 6-week thing. It's hugely undersold at the moment. What I mean by that is that I've it's underpriced. That's what I mean by that. My accountant's even told me off for setting the price too low, but I don't listen to him because what I want to do is help more people. So if you or someone you know struggles with confidence, struggles with self-belief or internal confidence, struggles with outward confidence, or just wants to feel more confident stepping into a situation, whether that's confidence on camera for doing videos, video chats, social confidence, or just believing in yourself and your abilities so you can achieve more. If you want to unlock your inner confidence, because confidence isn't something that's out there that you need to learn, it's something we all have inside. And if you want help unlocking that, then you can join my 6-week program. There's going to be a whole host of content with daily hints and tips, bite-sized information, weekly live videos with a focus on a different area, and loads more stuff added in. I'm nearly on 30 spaces. I've got 2 more tickets to sell to get to 30. Once I hit 30, I'm unlocking a special bonus content. And then for every 10 people that book beyond that, more bonus stuff. And I'm not allowed to say what it is yet. So if you want part of that, or if you know someone who you think could benefit, it's only 60 quid. That's it to unlock that inner confidence. So if you want more information, I'll pop the link in the comments, or you can check out my Facebook page, Mind Affinity, and all the information will be posted on there. Or check out mindaffinity.co.uk/confidence. Anyway, thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for staying to the end, even though I was doing a sales pitch. I noticed the numbers of people watching live you normally expect when you get to the end and you start trying to sell your stuff. You expect the number to drop. Everyone's still watching. So thanks for that. Maybe you've all just fallen asleep. Have a great day. Go out there, and whatever you're doing today, just enjoy it. Find a way, even if you're doing something dull and mundane, put some music on and dance when you do it. Find a way to enjoy yourself today and embrace what you're doing. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next week.